Today we're talking about a new watch. That's the Garmin Instinct 2. So you might have seen the shocking thumbnail that I put up for the video. I'll explain a little bit about that. It wasn't just for clickbait, it actually does have a reference point. I'm not going to do what most of the reviewers have done with the Instinct 2. They've done a fantastic job of going through all the tech, all the different menus, and there's plenty of those videos out there if you just want to know, how to operate the watch. I'm coming at it from a pretty specific angle. So I've had a couple of smartwatches in the past. I've had touchscreen smartwatches. That's not something that I got on well with. I was always, I've got big clumsy fingers, so they just didn't suit me. I was always pressing the wrong thing, and they just didn't act like I wanted them to. Some of the functionality I didn't need, and they just annoyed me basically. So I wanted a watch that went back to push button, but I did want some sort of smart functionality with them. So these Garmin's were of interest to me. I had specific interest in the functions that were surrounding health, and some of the functions that surround helping me out when I go shooting. Mainly, I didn't want the whole ballistics calculator. I've got all that taken into account. It would be nice, but for the price point on the watch, you're looking at ballistic calculator on a Garmin, you're looking at £1,000 plus for the watch, and I just couldn't stretch to that, having already got a Kestrel, having already got calculator on my mobile, etc. So I wanted something that was durable, that could do altitude quickly, compass, barometer, and then I wanted mainly some health functions. I've been having a few health problems. I did weigh a lot more than I do now. I used to be a competitive athlete in a couple of different sports, was really fit, got injured, got unfit after injury because I just stopped training, so I got really out of shape, and during that time I started to have some mild health issues that were kind of bugging me. Now got back in the gym, got myself back into shape, and a couple of those health issues have still been bugging me. So I was just wanting to have a close monitor on some things like my oxygen rates, my heart rate, but most of all I wanted to see what was happening to me at night, because I was waking up extremely tired, dark circles under my eyes. I was starting to get concerned, because I'm a middle-aged guy. I was getting concerned. I keep reading articles about bowel cancer and stuff like that, so that was really playing on my mind. And over COVID lockdown, of course, there's been a lot of media attention on people missing the fact that they might have various different cancers and stuff, so that was really bothering me. Of course I went to the doctors and got opinions from them, but there's only so much those guys can do. They've done blood tests, etc., and so far so good, and that's still ongoing. I'm having a couple of more tests, but I was particularly interested in how I was sleeping, because I didn't feel that I was sleeping that well. So I got this watch, the Instinct 2. So like I said, it fits the rugged part of things just fine. I like the look of it, but it also allows me to do some monitoring at night. It has got, out of all the Garmin's, I think this Instinct 2 has the latest sensor technology. So that was part of the reason I bought it. I could have got a great deal on the Instinct 1 Black Friday, so if I hadn't have been that bothered about the accuracy of the sensors on here, I would have just saved myself some money and got that. As it was, I picked this up on Black Friday for £200, which is probably £40 to £80 cheaper than what they normally retail at, so I got a decent deal on that one, and I'm sure that they'll be around about that price come January sales again. I'll chuck a an Amazon link up. By the way, please do use the Amazon links if you want to buy anything. It does me a real favor because I don't really get anything out of these videos, so every penny helps. And on that matter, please do subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything. And you know, if you get bored of my content, you don't have to look at it, but it does me a real big favor. And if you can chuck me a like as well, that also does me a massive favor. I'm a pretty new YouTuber, so all this really helps me, and it doesn't cost you a penny. It's just a nice thing to do, so I really appreciate that. I answer all comments straight away. If you've got any questions about firearms or any of the kit that I review, you know, I really do go out my way to help people out, so I would be really grateful for the subscribes and likes. Anyway, back to the story. So I bought this watch, I started wearing it at night, and I was monitoring my pulse oxygen. So that's using a sensor to basically monitor oxygen levels in the body, because I was a bit concerned that I might be having some sort of sleep apnea or something like that. I've got some damage to my nose. I used to fight, not just in the street. I did do a bit of that as a work in security, but I was actually doing that as a sport. I'm doing some MMA and a bit of boxing, a bit of kickboxing, and I got my nose broken multiple times, and the last couple of times it got broken, I couldn't get it fixed on the NHS, so it's left me with basically a nose that's a bit difficult to breathe through. And I was waking up in the night with a really dry mouth. I kept going to need the toilet, which of course led me to think I might be diabetic, because that's pretty common if you're starting to suffer from diabetes. Had all the tests for that, drew a blank, and I was thinking, well, this is pretty strange, you know, let's see what's going on. So wearing this watch, I was finding that I was having, it also tells you when you wake up at night, so I was having restless nights. I was waking up a lot more than I actually thought that I was in the first place, and that was like short periods of waking up where I didn't even realise it in the morning, but I'd woken up multiple times in the night. And then my oxygen levels weren't great either, so I started looking at that and reading up on that, and realised that what I was probably doing was actually breathing through my mouth at night. That was leading me to have a dry mouth. And then if you look at the symptoms of mouth breathing at night, because people have problems with their noses and whatever, some people just get into a habit of doing that, it actually has really significant health symptoms that can have all kinds of weird effects on the body, like really quite bad effects as well. It can be bad for your heart. It can predetermine you to have a variety of pretty unpleasant, serious health problems, and also it leads to an increase in urination at night, because your body's not really shutting down properly, so it's still, you know, processing everything. It has a higher metabolic rate and all that kind of thing. So yeah, pretty weird side effect that, but that kind of answered that question. So I started wearing these sports nasal bands. I just grabbed one. Yeah, real cheap. These like spring-loaded plasters that you strap over your nose. And I actually read up on it, and one of the hacks, you know, the cheaper ways to sort out this mouth breathing at night was to actually tape your mouth shut and see if that made a difference. And I was using the Instinct 2. And actually it did make a pretty decent difference. You know, my blood oxygen levels went up. I was getting low 90%, which is not favourable at all, and this started reading between 95 and 100%, averaging about 97, which is a lot healthier. And I started waking up and feeling a lot brighter in the mornings. I didn't have the big black circles under my eyes. I could see on the graph, which I'll try and show you some of the stuff that it's recorded and how it does that. We'll do a little top down in a minute, but it actually started showing that I was having less spells where I was waking up, you know, momentary points of waking up. I was getting more deep sleep, more REM sleep. Now, none of the data off these watches is absolutely perfect because it's not a medical device. It hasn't been, you know, calibrated for medical use. But what you can do with them, and I think is pretty reliable, is you can look at what you had and compare it to what you've got now, and I think it will show a pretty decent difference. You know, I think the sensors were tested against some medical devices and they were coming up at about 83% accuracy, something around that. So they're not completely inaccurate, but they're certainly good enough to see that if you're doing something, is it making a considerable difference? And if you notice, you know, you're jumping, you know, 10 or 15% from where you were, then obviously that's making a considerable difference. And just from the way I felt when I looked at those two things together, you obviously put those together and realise that it's having a beneficial effect. So I didn't keep my mouth shut, taped shut for the whole, you know, for weeks. I just did that a few nights in a row, and my body kind of learned after that with these nose bands on, I was just going to breathe through my nose, and I wasn't after that waking up with a dry mouth anymore. I didn't have to tape my mouth shut. So now I just go to bed wearing one of these nasal strips across here, which is perfectly comfortable. I can actually breathe really good with them on. Sometimes I wear them in the day as well if I'm not, you know, if I'm not doing anything where I have to meet people and looking, you know, not look unusual, because obviously it looks a bit strange. I wear them to the gym because I can breathe a lot better when I'm doing exercise, and it's all thanks to the Instinct 2, really. I don't think I would have been able to come to any of those conclusions and assess any of that without wearing the watch, and I was really pleased with what it did for me, considering the price it cost me, £200. It's really changed my you know, it's changed things in my life considerably for the better, and that's quite a big deal. You know, it's a big thing to say about a watch that only costs £200, which I know is a lot of money for some people, but when you consider the impact it's having to the quality of life, you know, I was literally falling asleep every afternoon. I could hardly wake up. I thought, you know, I thought I had narcolepsy or something. It was really strange, and now I feel a whole lot better. So we'll go to a top down. I'll take you through some of the basics of the health functions that I use. We'll just talk a little bit about the watch. I want to give it a good review because I'm super happy with it, and I'm very thankful that I've been wearing it, and I will continue to wear it. Okay, so we'll do a quick overview on this Garmin Instinct 2. Really nice, comfortable strap, very robust. Unlike a lot of the smartwatches, the glass, which is a toughened glass, sits a lot lower than the bezel of the watch face. That's quite a distance away from the glass, so if it does whack on the ground, it's the bezel that's going to take the impact. I've just got a email coming up there. Banggood, you left something amazing in your cart. Don't think I have. So we have buttons on this watch, 3 on this side, 2 on this side, which I much prefer. Now that button there works as a set button and a back button in some cases, so most of the time that will take you back out of whatever menu you're in. You've got this, if you hold it down, will take you through to your GPS section, so it'll try and acquire satellites. It isn't going to do that because we're indoors, so there's no way it's going to find any satellites in here. But just press that back button, it'll take you back out. But if we go into that, it'll take me through to the quick menu, and I actually really like this. It's like a quick menu for sporting function, and you can program this to have whichever you prefer in it. So I've got my pulse oxygen set in there because I do that manually. If you have that on all the time, pulse oxygen, it actually drains the battery really quick. To give you an idea, I get about 20 days of battery life with no pulse oxygen set. I get about 8 days of battery life if I set it to be on at nights, which I actually, as I explained before, that's been quite beneficial for me. And then if you turn it off, if you turn it on all the time, you're down to 2 or 3 days of battery life. And one of the big things about this that I hated about normal smartwatches was that you get virtually no battery life with a smartwatch. And I had a Samsung Galaxy, one of the latest Galaxies, and it was just charging every night. I was sick of doing that. I like to wear my watch at night. I don't want to be charging it every night. And on here you've got strength, HIIT. Now these are different programs to measure various different things while I'm partaking in those activities, and that's the one I use most of all, is bike indoor, because I normally set this to record heart rate and stuff when I'm doing my cardio indoors. So we come back out of that. Now these are your up and down buttons here, so if you're in any of the menus and you want to travel up or down the menu, you just press those. But if you press them on their own, it will take you into this main set of features. They're like called widgets or something. They've got a special name for them. They're basically widgets that you can change and select. So we've got weather, sunrise, and these are all the ones that I prefer to have on here. Last sport, steps, heart rate, which it measures all the time. Sleep, that was the last sleep I had. We're at the weekend at the moment, so I actually got a decent amount of sleep last night. Calendar, and the calendar's pretty good. It syncs with my Google Calendar, which I also sync that with my Outlook calendar at work, so I get everything coming up on here. Notifications for emails, messages, etc., phone calls. And that's my pulse oxygen. Last reading was 96%. Like I said, they've gone up a lot since I started making a concerted effort to breathe properly. Health snapshot, that on the app, that gives you like a basic overview. You can take a health snapshot and it will just run through a number of tests. It'll do like heart rate, pulse ox, and a couple of other bits, and it will just test for those and tell you how you're doing fitness wise. Then we're into our altitude barometer compass, which they refer to as the ABC. So if we were to go into that, so that one up there is generally select. So at the moment that's compass, you can see that clear. And then altitude and barometer. And all those things I find really useful for shooting. So that's one of the things I like about this watch. Very handy when I'm out on the ranges. Training status, temperature, performance, and that's like a sports part of it again. And that's your moon phases. And then you can edit that as well. And then this one here, if you hold that button at the top, if you just press it quickly, I'll just show you that. If we just press it quickly, it's a light. You can't actually see it on camera because we've got so much light coming off of the backlight in here. And then if you hold that down, you can control your music through that. Oh, press the wrong button. That will find your phone, see it's linked to your phone. So if we press that, which I've never actually done, let's give it a go. I've never even done this. Well, there we go. So dismiss. pretty good. That's actually really handy. I didn't even try that before. Power off, which we don't want to do. Battery saver, so if you were going somewhere crazy and you were off grid for days and days, and you just wanted the most basic functions, then it will just run the most basic functions. It will still run functions that you want to when you want to, but in the background it will just run the most basic, so you'll get the maximum benefit out of your watch. Backlight, I've got that set at 20%. Do not disturb, that's off, but you can set that to on, you can set times, etc. Lock keys, I don't want to do that, but that's if you don't want anything pressing. That's actually pretty useful. I was out doing a load of stuff at the range the other day, and I had loads and loads of gear on because it was freezing cold, and I noticed I kept bumping these buttons because I had like massive gloves on, and I was lugging loads of stuff around, so that would actually be handy when you're doing stuff like that. And then we're back again to music controls. So that's a really, really brief overview. It does a whole load of stuff. I can't even begin to go into it. Like I said, there's loads and loads of videos out there that will really, really go into depth on those, and I would recommend, if you're buying one of these, to watch those videos, and it will tell you how to use your watch. That one of the only downsides to this is I think Garmin's user manual it will take you through all the basics and everything you need to know, and it's very, very good at setting it up and linking with your phone, and that's all really obvious to the user, and it's easy to do. But when you want to learn a bit more about some of its extra functions, that's the reason that people have made all these videos, because the instruction manual just doesn't seem to answer those questions too well with some of the more complex stuff. You see the back of the watch there, so that's the sensor. You can see that flashing up, and that's the thing that does your heart rate, pulse ox and all that kind of thing. I'll put it on in a second and you can see it'll flash up with the heart rate. That piece there is it's a proprietary Garmin charger. It's just a USB charger. It actually only takes like an hour or so to get full charge into this watch, which I've been really impressed with. Like I said, super comfortable strap. Didn't look that comfortable, but it actually is. I don't even notice this thing on. It's like a really, really soft rubber strap. Get that on there, and straight away you can see we've got heart rate coming up. It's a little bit high. I've got a resting of about 55. We're running about 73 at the moment because I'm excited to talk to all you guys. You can see I've got 6 days of battery life there. So I've got an Android phone here, and you can see we've got the 2 Garmin apps. Connect IQ is like a sort of widget store for the watch. If it takes us through, got loads of different apps, watch faces and all that kind of thing. There's thousands of these things. GPS stuff, I mean the GPS stuff I haven't even gone into yet. And then this is the app that I use most of all, Connect. So this connects you to the watch. You have to download this and get this set up. So it's got our heart rate there, which is pretty good in terms of being synced to the watch. It's in real time. Body battery, which is something that tells you, how worn out you're getting from your exercise and your calories, etc., and whether you should take a break or not, and maybe have an off day, have a bit of a rest. Your stress is based around some of the telemetry that's getting fed into this, and it tells you how stressful your day is. Mine's not too bad, I don't think. Intensity, it's telling you per week. You've got a goal of a certain amount of minutes a week that would be healthy to hit, and that's when you're doing things like your cardio and stuff. you got your goal for steps if you're into that kind of thing. And all this is configurable. You know, you can change all this to your heart's content, telling you how many calories you're burning off a day. That's your sleep there. So it gives you a breakdown of your sleep. Last night was not a particularly good night because I got woken up by the dog. My partner's away at the moment looking after someone, and the dog is not a happy bunny, and he keeps jumping all over me in the night and waking me up. Then it's giving you pulse ox during the night there as well, and then you can have a look at your pulse oxes over time during your sleep. So last night it was poor, and it was actually good in all areas except you can see why it was poor. Awake, restfulness, because the dog woke me up so many times I ended up going online and messing about and updating some stuff on the channel actually. So you can see I'm getting an average of 95%, which is good. My last night's sleep average was 94, which has gone down a bit, but I think that's just because I had such a if you move about, then the pulse ox isn't reliable. It actually tells you when you take it, you know, don't move around. So at night it's great if you're just laying there asleep and you get a good night's restful sleep, it's pretty accurate. But if you start moving about in the night, then you end up with you know, an incorrect pulse ox. But generally speaking, I've been hitting between 95 and 98% at night, which is a lot better. Telling you my breaths per minute there. You've got the facility to add your own activities, weight, hydration if you want. I don't bother with some of that. It says, yeah, I do add my activities, so it's saying I went to the gym yesterday, I did cycling yesterday. It will also really easily, I've got a cadence sensor, so it talks to that and normally records cadence. I don't think it did it yesterday because the thing's run out of batteries, but normally it will record my cadence, and then it just gives you a breakdown of all those things there. It gives you a breakdown over the last 7 days. So my sleep score there over 7 days is a lot better, and my pulse ox there is a lot better than it has been. Respiration, you can do all that, everything charts. So it's really, really useful if you want to get snapshots for your health. And if you're concerned about heart conditions and things like that, then this thing is especially useful. Like I said, it's not a medical device, but you know, as you get to middle age, it's certainly nice to have something on your wrist that may not be absolutely 100% accurate, but it's certainly going to be able to warn you if things start to rapidly change. You know, if something's unusual with your heart, and if you start noticing your heart beating a lot faster than it has been over the last however many weeks, and suddenly you're doing nothing and it's beating at 95, you know, there's probably something in that. And I even noticed that if I think about stressful stuff, I can actually make my heart rate jump right up on this watch. So it's kind of good mindfulness as well, that you know, it makes me notice that because sometimes you default and think about stressful things just because that's how the brain kind of defaults and starts worrying about stuff. And if I notice that going up, and you can even set like a little alarm on it, then I think, oh, well, stupid me, I'm sat here thinking about, you know, how I'm paying the bills next week or whatever, and I don't actually need to be, you know, worrying myself about that, because I can luckily pay the bills. So that's our brief look at the Instinct 2. My dog's just come in the room, so excuse any snuffles you can hear. It's not me, it's the dog, I promise you. And super pleased with it. I like the way it looks, like the way it feels. and most of all, it's been super helpful in terms of its health function. And I'll probably do a little update on it quite soon. Thanks a lot, guys.